Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order of the Financial Advisory Board, Thursday, October 27th, 11:30 a.m. Please silence all cell phones. Ms. DeHart, and if anybody who hasn't met her, who will play the town, would you please call the roll?
Member Cornfield,
Here.
Member Goldberg,
Present.
Member Packler,
Present.
Member Weiner,
Weiner, did you say? Yes, present. Hello?
one moment.
Hey, Ron, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. See you soon, I guess, huh?
Yeah, they're just trying to fix the, can hear them.
What are you going down, Mitch? Are you there?
A day after Thanksgiving. What about you?
Is this meeting being conducted in sign language?
See if we can get it. See? Gentlemen who are on Zoom, would you mind testing your mics?
Hello, can you hear me?
Mm-mm.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Can you hear me?
No, I hear you.
I
We
hear
can
you,
each other,
Ron.
but we can't hear them.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure it's up on YouTube. It's just there for me. Looks like Zoom bugged out.
Having technical difficulties with Zoom.
Can they hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
And you can hear us loud and clear.
Yes.
Okay. We are just having a difficulty hearing you gentlemen on Zoom. We can hear you barely. So we're just trying to work on the volume and on our end. Few more seconds.
YouTube delay.
We're probably not going to have too much to say in the beginning anyway, are we? On the Zoom part of it. As long as we can hear you.
Might be the longest part of the meeting.
Yeah. we're still on Zoom. We're gonna do our annual meeting in February is gonna be a combination. Yeah,
Fine for interaction.
yes, I'm very open to my meetings.
President, interaction, so he's taking it. I don't know which button to press. All right, meeting adjourned.
I'll have my manager, she controls the,
We have somebody.
Breaking up over
Maybe a new school. Test the.
Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
Gentlemen on Zoom, can you unmute yourself so we can see if we can hear you?
Can you hear me?
low.
Hello? I hear you. Mitchell, you're on mute.
No.
Anybody hear me? No? You don't hear me either, Mitchell?
Need one of the grandkids to fix it.
That's, you got it, man. You got it. You got it.
You were able to make your tea time this morning and get here in time.
No, I didn't play today. I played yesterday.
Please see.
Played safe, yeah. And some-
Early, there's a hurricane sliders installed today. Contractor, email. 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry, I have to be there today. I don't care. I'm still waiting. for that.
I'm redoing my kitchen. I've got that same thing going on.
Gives me those things where you want to put. Oh. It's one big, 9.
Oh, boy. Turn this on.
This is frustrating.
Da-da-da-da. Anybody hear me? You? No? Anybody? No? Jacqueline, can you hear me? Take yourself off mute. You can't? Huh?
We have our tech person trying to figure it out right now. I apologize.
Okay, I'm off mute.
Okay, you should be able to unmute now. Okay. So back to the roll call. Okay, I'll start from the beginning again. Member Cornfeld, sorry.
It's okay.
Member Goldberg,
Present.
member Packler,
Present.
member Weiner. Present. Member Greenwald,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Riami,
Present.
Chairperson Stern.
Present, I think we lost somebody there. I think we lost somebody, but we'll continue. Oh, okay. Okay, will please all rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, and justice for all. Approval of the agenda, if there, I'd like a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public comments are now open. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name, last name and address. And since there's nobody in the audience, we can go to the next item. Approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections of the minutes to the July 7th minutes? Okay, hearing none. Are there any corrections to the August 28th minutes? Hearing none, I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 7th and August 28th.
So moved.
Second, please. Aye. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Unfinished business, there is none. New business, third quarter financial report. I refer the finance director, David Delana, to present the numbers.
Thank you. Excuse me. So what we have here, part of your package, I think it's page 14. I don't know if mine's got adjusted, but so the first part looks at how each department did according to its budget. And then the next page shows really the actuals by fund. You have the revenue up on the top, the expenditures on the bottom, and then line 29 shows kind of the net, what I call. And you can see like the general fund netted a surplus of $105,000 so far. And the building fund, obviously $463,000 so far. So they're doing very well. And water fund and sewer fund. But I want you to just take notice, line 29 of the water and sewer fund. You see that it's a surplus, right? Of $227,000 and $689,000. Well, that surplus was a result of the ARPA funds that we got, line 12. On the top, you can see the ARPA funds. Look, the water department, we got $287,000, right? That's what helped this fund. The sewer department got $693,000. That's what helped that surplus of funds come in. So anyway, so what I did on the following pages, starting with page 17, I just did a little year-end report. Now, these are unaudited, but these are going to be somewhat of the final numbers. You know, this is a year-end. We tried to do all the accruals, all the payroll accruals, all the insurance accruals, make sure that we get everything in the right proper period of time and everything like that. November, December, we'll probably start the audit process. And we should have our audit done probably by January, should be complete. Not anticipating any other major adjustments to these numbers, but.
Let me ask a quick question there. Normally, there's a situation with the fire a true up number, which changes considerably, like well over $100,000. Has that been taken into consideration? Do we have a projection if this number is a good number, or is that going to change?
Thank you. That's a very good point. Typically, December 1st, Delray sends us what their true up is going to be for the year. We don't have any indications. Remember, the true up is more on their end. We estimate how much it's going to be. I don't have any indication until December 1st when I get their numbers. But we've tried to account for everything else, but that true up is going to be the last thing. Now, typically what we'll do is we can accrue for an estimate of what we think that will be. It's kind of hard to estimate because most of the time it fluctuates up and down, up and down. They estimate for us their labor costs on the front end comes in a little bit lower. We get a discount, but historically we are still in negotiations with them because we have years of history where there's been discrepancies all along. And we're still going through the process, the legality of making sure that that's true up. Right now, I think that we are in $300,000 to $400,000 in our favor. We're going through the process of the internal audit on their end, and we're trying to do things before it gets to be legal, because then it kind of slows down the process.
You said internal audit by them. We can go in and review their internal audit?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean internal audit. What I meant is they, at December 1st, they do their own true up. Okay, they do their own true up. They sit there and they say, hey, this is what we had told you was going to be the estimated labor. Let's just give an example. We billed you for that estimated labor all year long. And then December 1st, we're going to give you the actuals. And so typically that's what I meant by we will get the true up. We'll be able to look at it. We'll be able to dive into what the numbers are at that time.
But I've asked this in prior years, do we have the authority to audit their true up? It's a big number involved.
Yeah,
A couple $1 million that we give them every year.
yeah, I don't believe in the interlocal agreement we have that right, but it is a public record, okay? And we've hired consultants, we've hired legal, we've hired the proper people to ask for the correct public records. We've done our own internal, not investigation, but we've done our own internal review and based on what is on their website as far as what their actuals are. And so right now, there is a discrepancy. We're still trying to work it out with the city of Delray. So, but I'll keep you informed. So anyway, if we go on to page 17, you can see general revenues. General revenues, about 80% of all the general fund revenues come from ad valorem taxes. You can see there on the bottom part where it says general revenues versus the budget. Most line items came in above budget, except for franchise fees and miscellaneous revenues. Now, these are in $1,000. So franchise fees came in a little bit under $35,000 and miscellaneous revenues came in a little bit under $4,000. But at the end of the day, for general revenues, we are seeing that we exceeded our budgeted revenue by $131,000 so far. If you turn the page, go to page 18. Yep. You can see there now I broke down general fund expenditures by department. Look at what it costs us. I found this interesting, right? Look across all the departments and look at fire rescue. All right. Fire rescue, that's all, the city of Delray contract. And that's a fully staffed fire department. Look at that compared to a fully staffed police department. So you can see that there's a tremendous amount more money that we're paying based on that interlocal agreement and why staff still believes that having our own fire department in-house will be overall a savings.
And where do you think it would be in a year from now? For example,
Well, a year, what do we have? We have 1.5 more years of that contract, I think, to 2024.
maybe the one-time expenses, right? And then,
Well, yeah, the one-time expenses, we will obviously capitalize a lot of the construction costs and things like that. But this is just looking at operating expenditures, right?
sure.
Personnel, materials, things like that. I think to run a fire department, it's a little bit more than running a police department. So you can see that police department is about $2.5 million a year. But yet fire right now is about $5.5 million. I think obviously that's going to come down.
Sure.
And so my first guess would be it will be somewhere in the $3.85 to $4 million a year.
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
Have we ordered all the fire equipment already?
I don't think we've ordered all the fire equipment already. I know that the challenge has been the back order. It's like a 24-month to get a brand new fire truck.
Yeah.
Now, we began the process, the fire chief has begun the process of looking for a reliable used backup fire engines. And so we're exploring that right now.
Do we buy those or lease those?
Well, we would probably buy those.
But, and I don't know this question, how often does the technology change in a fire truck?
I
They
don't
would be
know.
better off leasing it and getting a new truck. And it's probably a lower payment doing it that way than buying a fire truck for $500,000.
Yeah. We'll look at that. I haven't, I don't have that data in front of me for this meeting.
Yeah.
But if you come to the event tonight, you can meet the new fire chief, and he's working on all those data points.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So anyway, so you can see there the general fund expenditures. I'm on page 18, the middle part of it. The general fund, what do we spend most of the money on? Well, it's public safety. It's public safety at about 70%, of the budget, followed by general government, 24%, culture and recreation, and public works. And then you sit there and you go, okay, well, now I'm on the bottom page of 18. So of that 80%, for example, in public safety, what's the breakdown of that? Well, the chart right below that shows that 34% of that is salary and benefits, and about 64% of that is operating expenditures. And a little bit for capital related, new vehicles, new equipment, things like that.
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Are we still planning to move forward with the post office? I know the last word from Marshall was that he had not found a space for it.
Yeah. Oh, well, we will obviously still move forward with the post office. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. To answer that, I'm not sure yet where that will be, whether it's going to be, we're going to carve out a piece in the front here.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Right.
So moving on to,
David, one question.
yes, sir.
The funding for the expenditure side of the fire exercise. I noticed that the fund of $4 million is still $4 million. So how is it being paid for? How are we paying for not the capital expense? It has to be some expenditures that cannot be capitalized. How is that being paid for?
Yeah. Well, right now, that's coming out of our general fund.
Okay.
Yeah, it's being paid for in the front page there of page 18. Well, you can see if we go back to page 15. So the fire department on page 15 is going to be in line 18. See where it says public safety?
Mhm.
Yep. So part of that $8.1 million, that's where the fire is coming out of. And that's obviously coming under the general fund.
Okay.
So all the money that we make all the money that we bring in ad valorem taxes, intergovernmental taxes, gas tax, hotel or whatever, that all falls under that general revenue. So that's where that's being paid.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring this up later in the meeting, but since we're talking about fire so much now, I'll bring it up now. And this would fall under the plan ahead category. So in the referendum, a total of $10 million was approved for the whole fire department fire rescue operation. And given the cost of inflation and everything, and having listened to to Marshall's presentation at the last commission meeting, it would appear as though, and again, I don't have all the numbers and the numbers aren't fixed in stone yet and all that, I get that. And we haven't gone back and done the value engineering and all that stuff. But it looks like we're pressing pretty close to our allotted amounts of money for the fire department because of unanticipated increased costs of construction. And I'm sure there will be with some of the equipment and everything too as we get to it. And again, this is in the plan ahead category, but what is our contingency, if you will, financial plan? Should it turn out 6 months or 9 months from now that it becomes clear that we need an extra, I'll make up a number because I have no idea, but an extra $2 million in order to put together a first-class fire rescue department and have it operating on day one. And again, the thing that gave me pause, and again, none of this may happen. So this is all total contingency stuff. But, people start talking about, well, we may have to value engineer out this conference thing, or, maybe we won't, we'll just shell in this space or that space and worry about it later. Personally, I would not like to see us get off to that kind of start. I think that there are ways to have additional monies made available so that on day one, we can start as a first-class operation. And I don't mean just from an aesthetic standpoint, but I mean, fire rescue, particularly the rescue part of fire rescue, is probably the most pivotal life safety thing we have going on in town, given our aging population and everything else. And it's not as simple as it might be. I mean, in a regular operation, the commission could just raise taxes a little bit and be done and say, hey, we had some cost overruns. Given our charter and all we recently went through with our charter and the restrictions on increased spending for single projects and what requires referendums and everything else. And again, I'm not an attorney, but some of that may not be so simple here. And I just want to make sure, not for today's meeting, but that somebody, and possibly our group in the future, but somebody needs to be, maybe they are already behind the scenes, and I just don't know. But we need to be looking at this, because should it turn out that we need another referendum for more money, that has to be planned significantly in advance. That's not something that just pops up on the ballot. We learned that from the last time around. So I'm just sharing that as a potential future concern. Points raised about how much is a fire truck going to cost us, and the chief was already talking about, well, they're looking at a used one because new ones aren't available for 2 years. We can't afford to wait that long. And, new technology, I'm sure down the road, there's going to be a big push. All these things will become all electric or whatever it is. But I rely on our subject matter experts to figure all that stuff out for us. But as the financial advisory board, my concerns are, what are we doing as a contingency plan? Because it would appear from some of the comments that we may be pushing a little bit close to the amount of money that's been appropriated so far.
So if I could jump in on that, I think that's actually a great point because, my daily life, I manufacture and sell safety products. The amount of cost increases that I've received in the last 12 months are the most I've ever seen in my 25-year business career. For example, boxes, they've gone up 3 times in the last year. They've now doubled in price. And what I hear in regards to the fire station is that we're going to use alternative materials to try and lower the costs. So I think you raised a great point. I think it's important that we're transparent with everyone. Can we go ahead and execute at that level? And, I think we should consider asking for a revised budget for fire rescue if they have an updated or a prorated one based on current events that have happened since the referendum. Okay, so if I can, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that for the next meeting, we'd like to have an updated fire rescue budget for the implementation.
We're here a second for that?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Anybody opposed?
Roger,
All right,
we'll take
thank
care
you.
of it. Thank you.
And if I could give a suggestion, when you true it up with maybe some of the adjusted costs, add maybe more of a contingency if needed.
Thank you. So, excuse me, moving on. So I'm at the bottom of page, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm not there. So I'm at we finished up at the page 18, just to show you the breakdown of by department, by cost, how that's broken down into a function, whether it's public works versus fire rescue. We then talked about how that's broken down by function as far as public safety, then how that cost there is broken down by operations versus salaries and benefits. Now I'm on page 19. Well, how did our budget expenditures compare to our actuals? Well, on page 19, I have a chart there that just shows you each department, right? Green means that they came in under budget. Red means that they came in a little bit over budget. And so there you can see the breakdown there, slight increase there in shared support as well as in fire rescue. We had a little bit of increase there. And see one gentleman talking over there. Oh, he's talking on a cell phone. I'm sorry. Okay. The next page is now we're going to get away from the general fund. Now we're jumping into those three separate funds: water, sewer, and the building department. So here I just put a little bit of a graph here together that just shows you what the water revenue is done, what the sewer revenue is done, and followed by the building department. And so you can see there that the building department continues to grow as improvements across the town continue to grow. It's the rate of growth has been about 22%, since 2019. Same thing with the water and sewer funds. Now that rate of growth there is obviously attributed to the rate increases that have been passed, but you can see that there. And then the next question would be, well, how did our budgeted revenues versus the actual revenues come in? And that's on page 20 there at the bottom there. So you can see that we far exceeded the building department really pushed us. Matter of fact, September was the highest month so far. And part of that was because we brought in the interlocal agreement with Gulfstream. You can see that the water fund, we're still lacking a little bit, and the sewer fund is just trailing. But we're hopefully in the future years with rate increases, we will be able to lower that gap. Now, when I say rate increases, I want you to understand that the town of Highland Beach, when you compare it to other municipalities, our rates are still in the middle. We're not the highest. Okay. Our rates for what we provide as far as water and sewer, our rates are right there in the middle, which is a good thing, right? Because we have some flexibility, with the rates. And so November 1st, the vice mayor and we were working on the 5-year projection for the water and sewer funds. And so her and I will be able, she has a presentation of what we believe the future rate increases will be, with the goal of having the water department and the sewer department eventually stand on its own, right? And that's the goal. The goal is for a water fund and the sewer fund to be able to have sufficient rates to be able to stand on its own. Now, when you talk about rates, what does that rate have to include? The rate has to include operating expenditures. The rate has to include debt service. The rate has to include pay-as-you-go capital, which means that you have a capital plan. How do you fund that capital plan? Well, you accumulate dollars as part of the rate structure, and then you execute your capital plan. And then the rate also has to have enough for reasonable reserves. And so that's what the rate, that's what we'll look at when we look at the November 1st one.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Just to confirm,
Yes.
between the ARPA money and our budgeted money, we are good to go this coming year on the 1.5 million or whatever it was sewer improvement projects that we were supposed to do that were postponed for a year, but that's
Yeah.
we're fully funded for all that, right?
Yeah. We'll be fine. I mean, we still have you'll see when we go on later on, I think on page 21, which we talk about the capital. I'll show you that one. So now we looked at the building, water and sewer fund on the revenue side. She's talking about the revenue side. Now, if we flip the page over, you can see now we have the building, water and sewer fund expenditure side. And so you can see where what did the expenditures come in, right? So again, the building department, you can see that most of these funds here, salaries and benefits are only 28% of the overall budget. 40% is operation, 26% is debt service, and 6% is capital. You can see on the bottom, why did the water department and the sewer department do so well? Well, you can see there on the bottom, we really pushed capital projects into the future years. So we didn't spend as much in capital projects as we should have compared to our budget. But those capital projects don't go away. We just push them in. Now, you don't want to delay capital projects. The reason why you don't want to delay capital projects is because it just costs you more later on. So we will eventually execute these capital projects that are on there, and we have the budget for it. One last thing, what I tried to show here is if you go to page 16. So what page 16 shows is our reserves or fund balance. Okay. And so at the top there, you have beginning balance. Beginning balance is last year's audited numbers. And then you have the increase, decrease. I want you to think, you guys are business people. I want you to think about this is the equity, what I have, right? When a business closes down the fiscal year, right? That excess revenue expenditures, right, goes into retained earnings, right? So you either have retained earnings or you have a loss that year. Well, you can see there projected increase or decrease. These right here are all the projected increases. And then restrictions. Well, we have a general fund policy that says, hey, we are going to restrict of that $10.6 million. We're going to restrict it. How are we going to restrict it? Well, we're going to restrict it by budget stabilization, disaster, fire rescue. There's that $4 million. And then if you look down, total unrestricted. So we have about $2.6 million of funds that are considered unrestricted. And so what I did is I took that philosophy that we have, the philosophy that we have for the general fund, and I assumed that across all other funds. And I said, well, if we had that same policy, what would the water department look like? And you can see there's the water department, and you can see there, okay, of the $3.6 million that they have in cash, how much can they use? How much is unrestricted they can use for other purposes there? And you see there that they got about $1.579 million, or about 44%. So that's good. You know, you want to be able to restrict money for certain disasters, budget stabilization, things like that for unforeseen things. But to get back to your earlier question, what happens if we do have a $2 million increase, right? Well, you have to understand that that's a referendum versus a cash issue, right? So if you were to say, David, you know, we got $1.5 million overrun on our fire department. You know, what are you going to do? Well, that's a referendum. Once it passes the referendum, where would we get that? I would tell you, well, we have about 24% of our funds that are unrestricted. So I can probably tap into that $2.6 million and not violate the other restrictions.
Is that something you can reserve now or?
Well, right now, the general fund, this is our fund balance policy. So we have a policy already for that. And so we've already reserved about $4 million, obviously, for that. So so again, that's kind of our, that's kind of our, what do we have left to contribute to that project?
Sure, your backstop.
Yeah,
It's in your back
exactly.
pocket in case you need it. So
It's,
yeah, I
it's in
think-
our back pocket in case
Sure.
we need it. And you're absolutely right. If we need to raise any other type of tax rates or whatever, we have that. But to ensure that the project gets completed, yeah, that's probably what we have.
Great. And I think if you're able to provide that updated budget, or at least be
Yep.
able to help us understand how far off track we may be.
Yeah, right.
And we may still be, on track.
Yeah.
We just don't know. Okay. I
I
just
think-
want to add one additional comment here on the water.
Yeah.
So Marshall was kind enough to coordinate a tour for me of the facility. You know, it's a very impressive facility. But the one thing that really stands out to me that, is the water award that we recently had for the town, right? Best tasting water in the state. And to me, that's a big, plus for us that we should be very happy about. In fact, it probably means our water is better than the Zephyr Hills water that we're buying in public. So I just really want to encourage the other gentlemen, if you haven't taken the tour, it's worth seeing. It's a great facility and very thankful to everyone who operates it because, having the number one water in the state is, quite a feat.
And not only that, though, but just to add to that, that's the number one water, tasting water at rates that aren't top tier rates. We've maintained those rates. Eventually, when we look back to make this fund self-sufficient and stand on its own, that'll be obviously a good thing. But we have great tasting water. We use a system that's called reverse osmosis, which is the most expensive way to produce the highest quality of water, but it's good.
I mean, basically, there's nothing in our water when it comes out of the reverse osmosis. I mean, they actually have to add stuff back into the water before they can put it in the pipes, calcium and so on.
Yes, sir.
Those funds you were talking about, unrestricted for water and sewer, did most of that come from the federal funds we received and not used?
No, well, no, I mean, you could see that, this year, let's go back to page 15. So the ARPA funds that we received this year was $287,000 this year. We received the same. So it would probably be about $600,000 was of that money was federal funds.
Okay, so it did specifically, it's very good news.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Reserves went up because the federal funds have not been utilized yet.
That's correct.
Excellent.
Yep.
Does anyone on the screen have any questions? Anybody else here have any questions?
No questions. One other brief comment. I'm not 100% sure that just because we have money available, it means that it can be spent. And that again has to do with potential charter restrictions about how much money can be spent on a project or allocated, I think was the terminology in the charter, as I vaguely recall. So just because we have money in reserves, it doesn't mean that it can just be spent on projects, if it's more than a certain amount of money, it may, depending on how things are structured, et cetera, require approval at a referendum.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. And that's why I said early on, it's a referendum versus a money issue. You know, those are two different issues, but you're absolutely correct.
Are we still limited to the $350,000? That's. We went.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
remember, we don't want to talk about that, but we tried to increase that and we didn't, so
that's
we
good.
don't want it to go over.
It
Yeah.
has to be.
We have to get-
I'm sure that Ron and I definitely don't want to talk about that.
Well, I will tell you that,
Sorry.
I mean, I will tell you that $350,000, it doesn't go a long way,
Yeah. it's-
you know, and so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was great that we kept that 350. Because, geez, it's amazing how quickly it reared its ugly head. And on the most important thing that we've done in years and years, and now we have a problem. Because the short-sighted voters who didn't approve that, guess what? Now you got a real serious issue. Thank you. Thank you, wonderful voters.
Sorry.
Question, would it help if we got a legal review to understand if those funds can be reallocated to fire rescue, or you're confident they can be without a vote?
No, oh, yeah, you'd have to get a legal review on that. It'd have to, we can't, I mean, I would like to ask for legal. All I'm saying is that,
All of that needs to be looked at as part of the motion that you made, I think,
Yeah.
to just
Okay.
review the financial
Right.
status.
right, but right now, the motion on the table is to, the fire rescue budget, to look at where it was and what's the latest projection.
This is not unusual for some of our town major project. We audited the water plant when it was first done, and it went over by many millions of dollars and had to go back for a vote to approve the additional funds. And we ordered it and there was nothing done wrong. It just, as they went into the project, things went up. And as you're correct, the inflation rate is so much higher than anybody anticipated that it's caused everything to go up, clearly. I have a related question, not exactly on this. Thank you very much for the presentation. How have we looked at the rising interest rates and so forth as it relates to our additional funds and how we invest the money? Because this committee did look at that a few years ago and made recommendations. Has that been reviewed, or where we put in the available funds to get the best interest rates?
Yeah, you know, we obviously do invest those funds. Obviously, there is an inverse, right? There's an inverse relationship when we're restricted on what we can invest in, right? We can invest in bonds and things like that. And everyone here knows that as interest rates go up, bond values, right, go down. And so we can look at that at our next meeting to give you more of insight. But yeah.
Because there were alternatives in different funds, and there was quite a gap in different funds.
Yeah.
And secondly, there was a thought process of laddering some CDs.
Yep.
Based upon
Yes.
the amount of money, just to get some extra bucks forth.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the other, I think we have one other thing.
CDs won't be a good alternative because you're locked in at those rates. So
Yeah.
you don't want to do CDs.
Right.
You can.
You're correct, but we're
You
talking
should be
about.
doing a repo market. You should be doing a repo market and doing it that way, and you can do it out for a long period of time and get government collateral as back for your cash. And I can explain someone in your financial investment people how all that works.
That would be great. I mean, I think you're right on target. Thank you. Okay, any other questions for David? Okay, moving along then. I just would like to review very briefly the calendar of meetings, which is scheduled for January 26th, April 27th, an organizational meeting the 25th of 2023, and July 27th. These are all on your agenda, and October 26th, all at 11:30 a.m. as it sits now, and obviously there'll be special meetings as different issues occur. Is anybody, first of all, can I have a motion to accept that?
Just a question first, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The year end, September 30th, correct?
Yep.
So we won't review the year end until January 26th.
Yes,
Okay, are we comfortable with that?
that was the recommendation of the town in the past, and that's why if we want to adjust that, they're all adjustable, these meetings. This is for our calendar purposes, and the town's calendar purposes.
Yeah, these right here, these meetings here were just to try to keep it on a quarterly basis. If there are changes, we obviously will notice you. The January 26th one, it's probably at this point, it's good because if we close September 30th is our end of our fiscal year, we keep the accounts payable side of life open until November 18th-ish, right? To get those last minute invoices in.
Sure.
We close everything out, then the auditors come in. The auditors might have a month. You got the holidays, November, December. January, they should be all about wrapped up. And I can then present you with audited financial statements. And then typically March is when we have to remit it to the state of Florida. So that's typically the time frame. So January 26 looks like a good meeting date to have, hey, all the audits done. Here are the actual numbers. And yeah.
Is that when we'll receive the update on the fire rescue budget?
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
that would be very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could I have a motion to accept the calendar? Somebody?
Move to approve the calendar of proposed meetings.
I have a second.
Second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Just
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, announcements. October 27th, 5 to 7, of course, is the food truck event, which is this evening. November 1st, Town Commission meeting. That's a 1:30. November 2nd at 9:30, National Resource Prevention Meeting. November 9th at 1 p.m., Code Enforcement Regular Meeting. November 9th at 6 p.m., Public Meeting, Accessory Marine Facility Regulations. November 10th at 9:30 a.m., Planning Board Regular Meeting. November 10th, 6 p.m., Public Meeting, Accessory Marine Facility Regulations. And December 7th, 6 p.m., Public Meeting, Accessory Marine Facility Regulations. Is there any other business for this committee? Anybody else want to bring anything up? Any reports anybody have to give?
just a quick announcement, I
Sure.
have resigned from the board. I'll be leaving in the new year. I'd like to thank everyone for this opportunity. It's been really great, and I look forward to continuing to be able to serve.
Thank you. And just as a side note, I am term limited as of April. So that there'll be a change there. I will have my 6 years on this board. Thank you.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you. There being no other business to come before the board, it is adjourned at 12:23. Thank you very, very much and have a great day. Thank you.
See you all soon.
See you soon.
You need anything, you need the food truck. Tonight.
Tonight, yeah, tonight.
As long as the lines aren't that long, I'll turn around and go home. If I have to wait an hour